Okay, shifting gears again. We are now into the education of women, and things are going to start easing up slightly. We're going to talk about secondary schools. We're going to talk about higher education. In terms of secondary schools, remember the Boston High School for Girls? Well, that was short-lived, but it sent a message that females were capable. It also sent a message that they were ready and willing. The net result was to expand the common school years to include the high school years. Soon other towns began, besides just Boston, to provide for females. More on the secondary schools. Lowell, Massachusetts pioneered something in 1840 that became coeducation, sending males and females to the same building. And lo and behold, it worked. It was cheaper than providing separate facilities, and Americans, remember, love cheap. The Midwest was co-ed from the start. Higher education, separate facilities were prevalent prior to the war. Ultimately, successes at Vassar, Smith, and Wellesley opened all the doors. Most state universities were co-ed from the start because they were extensions, particularly in the Midwest, of co-ed pre-college systems. And the land grant movement, remember HOMAC, stimulated the growth of state systems as well. A flyer from the 1872 University of Wisconsin. It must be a pitch for females to go there. And notice the way they write in these days. It is too late amid the noontide splendors of the 19th century to ignore the claims of women to higher education. Whatever shall make her wiser and better, that she may learn. Whatever knowledge she may be able to use, either in adding to her own happiness or in promoting the happiness of others, that knowledge she may rightfully acquire. Kind of makes you want to sign up, doesn't it? And finally, something called a coordinate college. They were neither separate nor were they co-ed. In essence, they were two institutions, a male school and a female school, but affiliated with one another. Harvard Radcliffe was the one in, what was it, Love Story? Was that the movie? Founded by a group of Harvard professors called the Society for the Collegiate Instruction of Women as the Harvard Annex in 1879. Name changed to Radcliffe College in 1893. Others followed, we won't name them all. Columbia had its Barnard College, not Henry. I don't know which Barnard fellow this was, but it was not Henry. Tulane had its companion school as well, Sophie Newcomb, etc., etc., etc. Coeducation has been hailed as one of the most significant triumphs of democracy in education. It also meant probably you had a date for the weekend. By 1881, 30% of all American colleges admitted women. That was 71% by 1900. As with the academies, it saved many a marginal institution from going under. And going along with the cheap is good. If you can keep the institution going, yes, we'll take them. Just like with the academies. From 1875 until 1900, male college populations tripled while females increased sixfold. But the real story about higher education for women starts with the feminization. 'Feminization' of teaching. Good grief. 'Feminization' of teaching. 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 'Feminization' of te once a predominantly male occupation. Remember the schoolmaster? Remember Ichabod Crane? The common school movement becomes increasingly female as, and I really hate to show you this next thing, males seem to enjoy drinking more than teaching. The tendency for inebriated male teachers to show up in embarrassing parts of town was not a good thing. The demand for teachers increases, and women are willing to work for significantly less money. Remember, cheap is good? 60.2% of the teachers in Massachusetts by 1837 were female. By 1857, that had increased to 80%. By 1869, that increased to I can't even read my numbers anymore, 88. While some, remember that Samuel Hall guy, lament the tendency of school districts to skimp on what they were willing to pay for teachers, others attempted to establish the special suitability of females for teaching. This lady is the sister of Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. She wrote an essay on the education of female teachers. She said in the essay that women were especially fitted by disposition and habits and circumstances to be teachers. Thanks to their tact and moral power, they were uniquely able to inspire virtue and morality in the young. Now, statements like paved the way for an optimistic or even evangelical faith in education, leading to a reliance upon the schools for an ever-increasing range and variety of social purposes. Wait for the cardinal principles come along when the schools carve out that they are willing and able to do anything. This cultivates a pervasive anti-intellectual tendency to discount the complexity of teaching. Well, women are just naturally cut out for this sort of thing. And if it's so difficult, well, how come women can do it in the first place? Encouraging a reluctance to bear the costs of supporting education at adequate levels. And as if that weren't enough, at the same time teaching was undergoing feminization, it began the process of professionalization. Although the history of higher education for females has tended to focus on the women's colleges that opened after the Civil War, it was the academies, the institutes, and the normal schools that were the real pioneers. So that, when the grand and lofty arts and science faculties were rejecting education as a field of study, they weren't just rejecting the curriculum of the normal schools and teachers' colleges, they were also getting in an additional dig at the education of women.